It's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to this edition of Q&A with the Coach. First, shout out to the sponsor, xmartial.com, makers of fine t-shirts, rash guards, shorts, and other great training equipment like this. Go check them out at xmartial.com. Use my code Ramsey10 for 10% off everything. Now on to the question. We have a question from Mr. Runkuin 3644 who says, "Hey, Coach, I have a question. I have a very strong stomach. He can take hits at full power to the midsection, even with bats and iron knuckles. Whoa, dude, you were something else, apparently. However, my solar plexus is so weak, I can barely take a 20% punch. How do I fix that? Note, I do a lot of decline crunches holding 40 kilos. Okay, cool. Crunches are a great exercise, but the solar plexus right here is kind of a weak spot on a human being. Why? Because there's no muscle in front of it. There's no padding. It's just essentially your sternum with a layer of skin and maybe a little bit of cartilage over it, and then your internal organs underneath that. That's why martial artists are always saying, target the solar plexus. It's a weak spot on the human body. So do we strengthen it? Well, to a certain extent. You can do a bunch of push-ups and presses and all these other exercises to try to strengthen your chest, and it will to a certain extent, but I'm going to give you some better advice. How about, instead of standing squared up where the other guy can hit you in the front of the body, which you've apparently been practicing for, get in a fighting stance where your solar plexus is no longer exposed to a strike coming straight forward at you. Now you can roll with those punches and not get hit right here in the weak spot. It's kind of like saying, Coach, how do I strengthen my groin so that I can take groin shots better? Well, you could wear a cup. Or guess what? You could improve your fighting technique so you don't get kicked in the groin so much. That's a pretty good idea, if I do say so myself. And a very simple way to do that, just fix your stance. Right. Instead of being perfectly squared up like this, going one shoulder, 1 foot in the lead, one a little bit behind, a little bit of an angle, and so now the front of your body, all these vitals down the center line are no longer exposed because we've cleverly hidden them behind our lines of defense. Next question. This next question kind of looks like it probably should go to my religion and philosophy channel, but we'll answer it here anyway. From Godi, hope this is not taken, says, Mr. Dewey, 5 minutes ago, I realized that of all the questions I have posed to myself, and the universe, never have I ever asked what makes me a good person, nor have I tried to define good. I've spent most of such ponderings defining what is evil and such like. I find myself floundering under the mental pin, as it were. I would appreciate any thoughts that you have. My thought is, you're not a good person. I'm not a good person. There are no good people. But guess what? You can do good in the world. Stop asking yourself, am I good? Because it's not enough to be good. You have to be good for something. So just like I say, get out there and train. Stop fixating on, is this the right martial art? Is that the right martial art? Is the martial art good? No, look, be good for something. Get out there and train. That's a good thing as far as martial arts is concerned. But as far as being a person, be a person who does good, as opposed to being a person who worries about your intrinsic value. The fact that you exist, you're a child of God, means you have intrinsic value, and that is a potential to do good. Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect, said Jesus in the Bible, right after he illustrated that with an example. What is perfection? How is God? What does he do? He makes his rain to fall upon the good and the evil. Meaning, the people you consider good, the people you consider evil, God makes the rain to fall on both of them. He blesses both of them. Why? Because they're both his children. The crappy ones and the less crappy ones, whatever. Stop worrying about being good and get out there and do some good. Next question. We have a question today from Tommy, who says, hey Ramsey, if you were rolling with a 6-limbed creature like Goro from Mortal Kombat, how would guard passing work? Would his second pair of arms work like a second pair of legs? Would you have to pass guard twice to get to full mount? Thanks. That's a great question. That's actually one I've pondered a lot. If you're not familiar, Goro is a fictional character from Mortal Kombat. He's got 4 arms, 2 legs, and he's huge. He's like 600 pounds of solid muscle and fury. And in the game, it's mostly stand-up stuff, and Goro can grab you with 2 arms from the bottom and beat you from the top with the upper arms. It's kind of comical. But if you were grappling with a guy like that in real life, even a guy your same size, not a 600-pound half-dragon monster like Goro, if he's got an extra set of arms and you pass the guard, what happens? Do you have to pass twice? Is that extra set of arms another thing you have to pass? Well, yeah. Because you have to remember, a guard is limbs in the way of progress. For example, in a boxing match, our guard is our arms, our shoulders, our hands, our elbows, our forearms, all this stuff that gets in the way of the other guy punching you in the face or in the body. And so you can protect yourself with this stuff, right? In jiu-jitsu or on the ground, our legs become the guard. The hips, the knees, the feet, all of the stuff to prevent the guy from getting to your upper body, to protect your body, to protect your head from damage, from the guy controlling you, from the guy pinning you, etc. That's why we call it a guard. A lot of people don't understand that. So if you were able to get past the legs of a 4-armed guy and then get into mount, you'd still be in trouble, man. You're not out of the water yet. You might think, well, he's got extra arms. I can armbar more of them. Maybe. But you know that thing a lot of brand new white belts do when you do pass their guard, you end up in full mount, and then they grab you and hug you and try to squeeze you to impede your progress, especially if it's MMA, grappling, MMA, where you can punch the other guy, as opposed to jiu-jitsu, where you're working for a submission only. And then they'll grab you to try to avoid the damage and to squeeze and squeeze for dear life. Now imagine a guy was doing that to you, just holding on to you, right? And you think, I'll just cross-face and posture up, but he's got an extra set of arms. So he grabs you, he pulls you down with the 2 arms, and then he's doing an Ezekiel choke, right? Or you're trying to hand fight the Ezekiel choke, and then he hand fights your hand fighting. Suddenly, mount from the bottom becomes another guard. So I think you're exactly right. You essentially would have to pass the guard twice in a very real kind of way, in this very fictional scenario. I'm going to have to try this, get like another guy stand behind me with 2 arms, and this is going to look really ridiculous, and we're going to squash each other. And see what happens when essentially we have 2 guys fighting 1 guy in this. I don't know, man. It's going to be ridiculous. I'm alone at the gym today. Otherwise, I totally would have done that. I love fictional questions. Let me know what else you got. Thank you for watching. Get out there and train.